Hello there, my name is George Stojanov, and I am doing a testimonial for Liberty Aid Academy and the work of John McKeag. I purchased the McKeag Mastery Trust package in March of 2022 because I wanted to operate common law trusts for protection of my family. And I was doing research on YouTube, and I stumbled upon John McKeag by the grace of God at the end of 2021. And after researching his work, I decided to purchase this trust, and I created a trust to protect family assets, and I created another trust for charitable work. And that trust I'm going to talk about today, that trust is called St. George Mission Trust, and I created the trust about 2 weeks after I bought the package, and you see the contract right here on my screen. This is the Declaration of Trust that is copyrighted by John McKeag, and it is a fabulous piece of work that allows you to protect your assets in a trust. Well, let me put it this way. It allows you to remove those assets from your person, and it also allows you to follow the commandments of Jesus Christ. If you want to learn more about that, look at Acts, the book of Acts 5 especially. And so here's the trust document, and it is created in the state of Washington, where I live, and I am the trustee, George Stojanov. And the best part of the trust is Article 33, which puts the trust in ecclesiastical jurisdiction under Jesus Christ. And the law of Jesus Christ is very simple. There are two laws: to love God with all your heart, and to treat your brothers and sisters as you would want to be treated. That's the golden rule. The most difficult part of following Jesus Christ is to love God with all your heart at all times. That is what I discovered. Now, when I opened and created this trust, I did not comprehend the spiritual aspect of this trust, which is the most important part. But that is something that probably for most people will come later as you start operating in trust and trying to operate it correctly. And I created this trust actually at a Wells Fargo branch on March 11th, 2022. This notary was a employee at Wells Fargo, but I decided to create my first bank account for the trust at a credit union, and the one I chose was BECU here in Washington, and they're very friendly and convenient if you live in the Seattle area. And what's interesting about them is that they don't look at the trust, they rely on a certificate of trust, which I will explain. And I think this video might be helpful to others who have that option or want to utilize that option. So at BECU, I'm actually very happy with. They have excellent customer service, and you can be eligible to join them if you live in Washington State. So anyone who lives in Washington State, this is a great option. And this credit union originally was designed for Boeing employees, why it's called BECU. Anyway, I was able to create the trust, and here is my proof. This is a 1099 INT, which from year 2023, So this covers 2022, and you can see here it was issued by the Boeing Employees Credit Union, BECU, and this is my trust. Or I'm sorry, this is the trust I operate, St. George Mission Trust. And you can see here the greatest thing about this, of course, is that my Social Security is not on here. This is not associated with my person. This is the EIN number that I received when creating the trust. If you follow John's instructions, and right here is the payer number for BECU, the payer TIN number. And this is from 2023, and here's the one I just recently got for 2024. And you can see I've been operating this bank account now for 2 years without any issue. Very easy, very convenient. Here I want to share how the process I had to go through to create this trust with this bank. And basically I had to fill out the certificate of trust, and I'm going to go through that with you guys. What's interesting here is that the certificate of trust refers to the revised codes of Washington, and I wanted to explain that real quick. So this form here, okay, which asks for a trust name, the grantors, if you're using an EIN number, what kind of trust it is, the situs of the trust, the trustees, this information here, okay, and then it asks what kind of, if there's any limitations to the trustees regarding financial matters. What's interesting about this is that this form comes directly from the revised codes of Washington, which are right here. And so you can see here that, and the reason I'm sharing this is because if you're not in Washington, you might want to check out your state codes to see if there is a code that specifies a certificate of trust in your state. And if you're interested or having trouble opening the trust with a bank, you might try a certificate of trust first. So when I opened up the bank account for the trust, I never even gave them the trust documents. They never looked at them. They never read them. They completely relied on the certificate of trust. And so if you look at the revised codes of Washington, it basically is asking what kind of it basically explains what kind of information is required in a certificate of trust. And basically it's relatively simple. It's that the trust exists, and that the trust document was executed, the identity of the trustor, which is the grantor, the identity and address of the current trustees, the powers of the trustees, whether or not it's revocable or irrevocable, if there are co-trustees, the name of the trust, and then it just says the certificate of trust must be signed or authenticated by any trustee or by an attorney of the trust, and it must say that the trust is active. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty short. So look for if you're not in Washington, look for a similar code in your state that defines what a certificate of trust is, because once you have this definition, you can create your own certificate as long as you follow. This is what BECU did, right? They created their own certificate following these guidelines here, or these rules. And so when I created the trust, the St. George Mission Trust, this is basically what I filled in here. And let me just, here we go. Let me get my notes up here. So in this example here, my trust name was St. George Mission Trust, and the grantor was myself, The trust document was executed 3/11/2022. Any amendments? I did not have any amendments to the trust. And I had a EIN number. Okay, and the trust is irrevocable, and my trust was located in Washington State, and I was the trustee, or I am the trustee. And this is asking for the initial trustee, and I'm the current trustee. And you put your address here. Okay, and that is, I did not have any successor trustees, and John does not recommend that you add successor trustees. You should just name all the trustees that you need for the trust, and in general, you shouldn't really need to name multiple trustees unless you're married, and then you'd want to have your spouse as a trustee. For certificate of trustee, okay, here's the second page, and typically you will not want any kind of limitations, so there's no limitations on borrowing money in the trust or borrowing money for the trust, that the trustee are authorized to basically convey, pledge, mortgage, lease, encumber, or transfer title without limitation, and that the trustees have no restrictions in dealing with the assets of the trust. And this is all spelled out in the trust declaration. And then you basically read this information here, and you put your name again, and you sign it with your byline. And you put your date here. That's as simple as it is. And this is the information that they use to create the trust account. And what's interesting is, for this credit union, is my person doesn't even have a savings account there. So, which I found, very interesting. And so there's a rundown of how a certificate trust can be filled out and what it might look like for your bank. It might be different, and might be different in your state, depending if there are codes that define what a certificate of trust will look like. But as you can see, it's quite simple, and I think you should be able to create your own if you're a little bit familiar with drafting your own legal documents. Now, the other thing I want to show is that I also was able to create a Treasury Direct account for this trust, and you can go to treasurydirect.gov, and Treasury Direct is a way to purchase savings bonds and savings notes and savings bonds and Treasury notes and bills. And that can be very convenient if you want to have short or long-term investments in Treasury bonds. And so I do quite a bit of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year notes, shorter term notes, and you get better interest rates than what you get at the bank. And you go to treasurydirect.gov and you click on open a new account, and you'll get screens that look something like this. Now these are 2 years old, but they should look quite similar. It'll ask you for the kind of an account type you want. You want to do a trust, of course, because you're opening it for a trust. and it'll have these questions here. For example, this is for a trust. You put the name of your trust here, just as you have it on your declaration of trust. You put in the EIN number that you got from the IRS, and if you look at the EIN letter that the IRS gave you, somewhere in that document there'll be a name control, and it's a 4-letter, there's 4 characters that are basically, I guess, an extra security feature of your trust. So you need to put that name control here, and you need to put your street address of the trust, and the account manager, which in this case is the trustee. That's myself, and you can see here. And yes, you do put your social in here, but the trust reports, the trust doesn't report, but everything is basically, the IRS knows that these assets are associated with this EIN and not your social security number. But they need to know who the trustee is, and then your address as trustee, my phone number here, the email address I use, and then you can also see that I was able to successfully associate my Treasury Direct account to my BECU checking account here, which is very cool because that means you can pull money out of BECU right into Treasury Direct when buying bonds. And this is just the bottom of that page, and this is you're acknowledging, affirming that all this information is correct. And you get a review screen, and so here I'm creating a trust under the name that that matches my declaration of trust. Here is the address where I receive mail for this trust. I am the account manager or the trustee. This is the trustee mailing address, which happens to be at a PO box. And also I was able to link my BECU checking account during the the Treasury Direct account creation process. And you click the submit button and choose a password and some security questions, and boom, Treasury Direct account was created. So you can very easily create Treasury Direct accounts for these trusts, which can be another useful avenue for investing your money in low risk investments. So it's a convenient, it's another option for you. Of course, you can also create brokerage accounts for this trust. I've done that successfully, but I can show that in another video. I guess there we go. I mean, this has been a great boon for me and my family, and it allows me to keep assets safe for my family. It also was a step towards, how should I say this? It was also a spiritual journey for me, which to some people might sound strange, but it all starts when you realize that you are not your name, which is what the sort of the trickery with the straw name is all about. And you eventually will discover or realize that you are not your name, and that you are not your body, and you're not your thoughts. And when you start understanding that, then you start to have the realization that there is, that God is real, and that we are here to that we are here on a journey to come back to God. And so I had the opportunity last year to join John McKeag and some other pilgrims to a journey to India to see the tomb of Meher Baba, who very well explains maybe many of the spiritual questions that we all have. And I come from a Christian background, and but I know there are many things that are not explained in Christianity. For example, what happens when you go to heaven or when you go to hell, or what is the larger purpose of all these trials and tribulations. And so I found that Meher Baba gives the best explanation of the spiritual journey. And so I traveled with John and the pilgrims to Meherabad, which is the resting place of Meher Baba, and also a place where he taught from the 30s to the 60s. You can see here it's in India, and it is basically east of Mumbai. It was a wonderful trip, and I won't go into too much detail, but I do want to show that I was there, and I did have some experiences with God, which I will never forget. So I had some images that popped into my head, which were sort of the, I guess you call it the impersonal version of God. So God allowed me to see a tiny aspect of God, which was amazing, and pushes me forward in my journey to this day. And I'll just share a couple pictures of the trip. Here is Meher Baba's tomb. It's called Samadhi. And here's another picture of it. It's very interesting because Meher Baba teaches that all the religions point to God, and so Christianity, of course, is and Jesus Christ are a big part of that, but so is Islam, and all the other religions. And so when you actually learn more about the other religions, then you can kind of understand that they're all pointing to the same thing. And Meher Baba does a great job of explaining that. So if that resonates with you, I definitely urge you to check out Meher Baba. And I will leave some links in the video for you to check out Meher Baba. And here's me with John at a cave where Meher Baba was with his master, Sai Baba. They spent, I can't remember how long they spent in here, but several days. So anyway, there's me and John. It was a great trip, and John's a great teacher. Anyway, this trust and John's work has changed my life. So without him, I would definitely not be anywhere near God.